Let's talk about a really wild day in the markets. September 22nd, 2025. It was just one of those days that perfectly split the world of agriculture right down the middle. You had a painful sea of red for grains, but at the same time, a powerful, surging stampede for cattle. So what on earth was going on?
Okay, so picture this. On one side of the board, you have soybeans just plummeting to a 6-week low. Wheat's hitting brand new lows. It was a brutal day if you were a grain farmer. But then you look over at the other side, and feeder cattle futures shot up so fast they hit their daily trading limit. Just a massive, stunning rally. Two markets heading in completely opposite directions on the exact same day.
And that's the big question here, isn't it? Why? How could two sectors that are normally pretty connected just fly off in opposite directions like that? Well, the answers aren't found in the weather forecast or the harvest reports. No, they're found in government buildings and on the world stage.
All right, let's start with the grains. Their big drop wasn't because of just one thing. It was this devastating 1-2 punch of bad news that just knocked the market flat, and it all happened within a few hours. So punch number one, it came out of nowhere, all the way from South America. The government in Argentina made this sudden, game-changing move. They decided to temporarily scrap their export taxes on grain. Now, this was a massive deal, and you have to understand what an export tax does to get why.
You see, an export tax is basically a fee that makes your country's products more expensive for everybody else in the world to buy. So by getting rid of theirs, Argentina essentially threw a massive store-wide sale for the entire planet.
And what a sale it was. We're not talking about a small discount here. The export tax on their soybeans was a whopping 26%. So by dropping that to zero, Argentinian soybeans instantly became 26% cheaper on the world market. All of a sudden, U.S. soybeans looked incredibly expensive, especially to the biggest customer out there, China.
And yeah, speaking of China, that's exactly where the second punch came from. Everybody was holding their breath. There'd been a big phone call between the U.S. and Chinese presidents, and the market was desperate for some good news. Any sign that China would start buying American farm goods again? Well, that's not what happened.
The call ended with nothing. Zero progress on agriculture. And you could just feel the hope get sucked out of the market. This quote from analyst Dan Bassi just nails the mood perfectly. Traders everywhere started realizing, okay, those big Chinese sales probably aren't happening. So you put those two things together and oof, the result was just brutal. Soybeans, which really depend on China, got hammered the hardest, tumbling to that 6-week low. Corn took a hit from the new, cheaper competition, and wheat, which was already struggling, just broke to new lows. It was the worst possible combination, a flood of cheap new supply hitting the market at the exact moment your biggest customer walks away. Okay, so while all that mayhem was going down in the grain markets, let's flip over to the cattle side of things, because it was the complete opposite story. Cattle prices were just exploding higher, and the reason was something nobody saw coming: a frightening biosecurity threat.
The news that lit the fuse on this rally wasn't about more demand or anything like that. Nope. It was about a bug. To be specific, a really nasty parasite called the New World screwworm. A case had just been confirmed down in Mexico, and the scary part was just how close it was to the U.S. border. Now, I have to be clear. This is not just some random insect. This thing is the stuff of nightmares for ranchers. Its larvae literally eat the living tissue of animals, including cattle. An outbreak can be fatal, it's incredibly hard to get rid of, and it poses a massive, massive threat to the entire livestock industry. And this wasn't some far-off problem. We're talking just 70 miles south of the U.S. border. In market terms, that is basically on the doorstep. You can bet that set off some serious alarm bells. Okay, so this is where it might seem a little counterintuitive, right? There's a dangerous threat approaching and prices go up? It sounds completely backward. But in the logic of the commodity markets, it makes a weird kind of sense. See, the traders weren't reacting to what was happening right then. They were reacting to what could happen. The fear was that if that screwworm crossed into the U.S., you'd see quarantines, you'd see herds culled, you'd see massive disruptions to the entire cattle supply chain. So the market essentially started panic buying futures contracts now, trying to lock in supply before a potential future shortage. It was a rally built entirely on fear.
So when you take a step back and look at these two completely different stories, grains crashing and cattle soaring, you start to see this one common thread tying them together. The day's biggest moves had absolutely nothing to do with weather or harvests. It was all driven by politics.
Think about it. Argentina's tax decision?
That's a government policy choice. The trade talks with China falling apart, that's pure geopolitics. Even the reaction to the screwworm is tied to policies around border security and biodefense. The American farm is now just inextricably linked to global diplomacy. And this quote from a farmer really just brings it all home. For the actual person on the ground, making decisions about what to plant or when to sell, it's not just about farming anymore. It's about trying to predict the next political chess move from Washington or Beijing or even Buenos Aires.
And these are the political levers that were getting pulled on this one single day. You had active trade negotiations, foreign policy shifts, tariffs being used as a political pawn, and even rumors about future government aid programs. Every single one of those things is a political factor that directly impacts a farmer's bottom line.
So after all that, what can we take away from this tale of two markets? A few key points really stand out that help explain the chaos and maybe give us a bit of a roadmap for what to watch for next.
So let's just recap the big drivers here. For grains, it was that perfect storm. Argentina unleashed a wave of cheaper supply at the exact same moment that hopes for demand from China completely collapsed. For cattle, it was a single scary headline about a bug that sparked a buying frenzy, all based on the fear of what might happen to supply in the future.
And this all leaves us with one final and I think really crucial question. In a world where trade policy can change with a tweet and geopolitical tensions can make demand vanish overnight, is this kind of headline-driven, politically charged volatility just the new normal for agriculture? That's something every farmer, trader, and frankly, consumer is going to have to grapple with. Thanks for watching.